Hello everyone, my name is Venugopal. I'm Technical Director for Data Migration. I'm going to walk through data migration and application modernization. So as part of our cloud migration solution, we do from assessment all the way to hypercare. We tackle all the parts like application migration and modernization, database migration, like which is replatforming, like from like kind of Oracle to Postgres, such kind of scenarios, and the workload migrations, which is probably an ETL or reports migration or application data changes. For cloud, we create landing zone, security implementation, and a DR setup. And as part of automation, like creating the required pipelines or any test automation or load testing that we need to all is taken care as part of our cloud migration solution. So the data migration process, I'll get a little bit more detail into data migration process, is we do the initial assessment where we can create a migration plan. After that, any configuration like creating the required infrastructure for migration and setting up the connections is part of configuration. And then the actual migration of migrating the storage objects, code objects, data migration. And then validation is doing the testing in different environments. Uh, so overall, we use heavily our accelerators, different accelerators, but QMigrator is the migration tool that we packaged many of these migration processes into it. Effectively, with all this acceleration, we are reducing our migration time from months to weeks, and then cost savings also very significant, up to 80%. Now I'm going to give QMigrator demo. So when we log into QMigrator, we come to here to this landing page, where we can see the projects, clients, and users. So if I get into projects, I can see all the projects that I'm working on. The way to create a new project is from here. We can create projects for different cloud types and for different categories, like whether it is an assessment or data migration. For example, assessment, the different projects are cloud readiness or particular database migration we can create. And whereas in the data migration, here you can see multiple from different databases, source databases to different target databases we can create. I'll walk you through a project Oracle to PostgreSQL migration today, which I have created the project already. Here, I'm getting into that project. You can see here, this is the dashboard where we can see like there are different steps in the migration process. We extract the code and the extracted percentage and the storage objects converted, that is at 97%, and then the code objects that are converted through automation is 80%, and the data migration and the test cases that we are executed and their success rate. So the first step in the project is to go to the setup. And we have to deploy some infrastructure behind that is needed for migration, and then setting up the connections, the source and the target database connections. We need to set it up. So once we do that process, we are ready for doing the next steps in the migration, which are like assessment. Assessment is where we can select the database and then do a detailed assessment where it will give the extent of the code object, storage objects, and the conversion effort that is required. It will give. I'll walk through that report in a bit. And once assessment is done, we have the code migration. Part of the code migration, we have storage objects migration, where we can select the schema and convert all the tables, indexes, constraints. And similar process is code objects migration, where we can convert procedures, functions, triggers, like those kind of code objects. And this automation, when we do this process and then complete the conversion process, there could be some of the things that may not be converted properly. That we can have them available through this code assign page. Leads can get in and look at what is not converted, and then they can assign to the developers. Developers are going to see that in the manual conversion page, and then they can work on it. And again, the lead can review that code in the code review. So that's about the code migration. And the data migration is another important step where we do the data transfer from source to target. So here we select the source connection and target connection, and we can do the data migration at for all schemas or particular schemas and tables. This is the migration process that runs behind the scenes. Pretty much all the migration process runs. We do have a data masking feature where if there is any protected data that we can mask it. And similarly, once the data migration is done, we can do data quality checks whether whether everything is migrated or not, whether it is right data or not. That data quality through data quality check screen, we can execute that. Airflow is another component we have where we can do large scale data migrations through this open source tool that we customized for our purposes. We can use it for large scale migrations. Deployment is another module where we anything that we are converting here, all that conversions reflects in this deploy. So we can select those files and or deploy to different environments. Delta process is an important process where we track the changes that are happening in the application in production. And based upon those changes, we detect those changes, and then we are able to process it and integrate into our migration project. Part of that process, Delta control is another one where we can see the code and compare the code side by side from source and target, and make sure that they're in sync. It helps from that perspective. Testing is another important module where we can have, there are different ways to test. Like we can have the clients create the fill a template and upload the test cases, or we can capture the workload from the source system, source application, and then we can execute those, captured traces as test cycles. Here you can see test cases where we can execute them and see whether get executed or not. Cycle 2 is a testing where it is basic, make sure that the execution is happening. Cycle 3 is where it will validate for the functionality, whether it is correct or not in the comparing with the source. Cycle 3 debug is it will give more detailed information of any functional issues. It gives more information. Performance debug is another cycle where which code snippet area there is a performance issue, it will point that out. So overall, these are the all the migration activities that we can perform through this. And for each activity, we can check the logs as they are happening, what stage they are in. And then the reports are is another where here we can see different kinds of reports. I already have these reports opened here. This is the report we are getting through the assessment. When we do the assessment, here we are getting a report saying that the total project hours for this particular one is 302 hours. Means it has, how many views we have: 393 tables, 15 packages, 77 procedures. The details are to a very detailed at each code object level. How much is the lines and statements and what kind of complexities we have, and effort required for each code object. So it is at that level. So this is the report that we get it when we do the code objects migration conversion, like how many code objects are there and how many are matching, means converted through automatically. 97 got converted, source and target are matching. And not converted means these are there, means there seems to be some issue that it is not converted. And this is the summary, and then we can get into the detail in here. All the matched ones are both Oracle and Postgres, they are there. These Postgres are probably in extra code objects that we have in that database, but there should be here, all the matched ones are here. Another report is cycle 2 execution. When we execute the test cycles, we'll see whether these ones are passed or failed, and how long it is taking to execute them. Cycle 3, where it is giving in much detail, like what DMLs are it is passing and failing. We can see here both the Oracle DML and Postgres DML that is happening. Pretty much I want to cover means we like we do have QMigrator also have Git integration, repo integration, so we can check in the code and deploy the code from here itself.